Okay, this is very weird. How's my camera stuck and how can we... Anyway, I have been asked for my opinions on what is the best skill in Tower Defense Simulator. I'm going to rank it. Firstly, Accelerator. Now, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this. You can buy this 25 times, so that's 0.5% each time, so the maximum of 12.5%. I'm going to think of this as like the max and then the midway point, which is 10. By the way, this is my tip for anyone who's buying all the skills out there. Just buy each skill to 10 first. Always do that. Never try and max out any skill before you get all of the skills to 10. It makes no sense why you want to do this, and even towards the end points, you probably don't need all the skills up to 10, especially reinforcements, because reinforcements is quite an expensive one. But Accelerator, so 5% to get to level 10, 12.5% to get to max. 12.5%, so thinking about the commander there, a reduction of 12.5% is around 6 seconds. But the only problem is, with the commander, you're chaining it. So with that, I don't think it's that useful, given the fact that the commander's ability lasts 10 seconds anyways. So we've got to think of this in terms of like the DJ booth, for example. So you're reducing it from 30 seconds down to 24 seconds. At max level, that is. I mean, even at the level I have it right now, 5%. You're looking at 1.5 seconds? Really? Is this really a good thing? I get to not use the DJ booth for 1 less second? I'm not sure that's such a great thing. 12.5% though, a whopping 6 seconds off the 30-second cooldown. I don't know. I think this is a C, just because I don't think the percentage here are worth it. The Scholar is an F. I think I've made my opinions on this very, very clear. Even if you're a collector, this isn't worth it. You just need... There's still a pity kill in Tower Defense Simulator. It's still 60. And more to the point, for most enemies, you'll still get all of their logbooks before you need to beat the game like twice or whatever for most game modes. The only enemies where it's probably very difficult before you may need 60 kills is the Health Cultist, some of the other hardcore enemies, like the Molten Boss, maybe, and like the Fallen Honor Guard. But even then, I don't think most people are hitting 60 pity kills when it comes to those enemies, apart from maybe the Health Cultist. The only reason why you get this is for the Health Cultist in hardcore mode. But even then, it decreases or increases by 1. Increases by 1 what? Percent? I don't think it's percent. I don't think this is useful whatsoever. This is below F. This is like, what's below F? G. Yeah, it is G. It's worse than G. People buying this because they're a, quote, logbook collector, useless. Logbooks are useless in the game. Why would you buy this? It is the worst one. Meanwhile, expanded barracks. The cooldown for spawning units is reduced by 10%. Now, this is units with a unit cooldown, so this applies to, say, the military base. This doesn't apply for something like the engineer. So, instead of, what am I thinking of? The military base, 45 seconds after the first upgrade, right? Now, at halfway, it's 10%, so that means the cooldown is reduced to about 40 seconds, and I think that's actually pretty good. 1% cooldown every level for a max of 20%. That's pretty good. 20% reduction at max level for this skill for something like the military base. It reduces that down by about 8 or 9 seconds, really. And quite frankly, 9 seconds for the military base. That's quite good. And I'm not even talking about the military base. There's the elf camp and then the mercenary base. And also the crook boss. I think there's actually a lot of towers there that this could take advantage of. This is actually probably S. Reinforcements, however, I'm not entirely sure, given the fact that most of the towers that I use have tower limits. So I'm talking about like the golden minigunner, for example, or the turret, the ranger, the accelerator, the engineer, the gatling gun, the DJ booth, the commander. You're using towers that has tower limits. So yes, the reinforcements could be quite good if you're in quad, because then it increases 20 by, I don't know, it scales with the number of players. I'm not entirely sure what this means. I assume in like, if you have like the max level, which is 10, then in solo mode, you will get that 10. 50 towers though, don't know what you're using with 50 towers, but in like quad, it can be extremely useful, but I don't know how it scales down in quad. Is it like divided by 4? Which means that you get a whole whopping 2.5 towers, which I assume they might run up to 3. So you get 23 towers in quad. Again, I am assuming this, but I'm not entirely sure it's that useful in many circumstances. In solo, definitely not. And with the towers that people use, I think you may be better off actually, instead of going for the golden minigunner with this ability or this skill, you might be better off going for the regular minigunner because you can place more down. But really, we needed like a DPS. I mean, I guess the minigunner is that DPS tower that does not have a limit. But the golden minigunner was that tower previously before it was imposed with a 12 tower limit. And also, it's an expensive upgrade, an expensive skill to actually upgrade. So 5,000 coins just to go from 2 to 3. I want it to be like S or A. Unfortunately, I'm thinking I have to put B purely because it's not that useful if you really think about it. Moving on to the blue branch now. Fortify increases the player health, but I can't lie, right? All the health stuff I don't think is that useful, apart from maybe at the very start of the game where you can tank some more enemies. But even then, I like to kill all the enemies. I know I'm like a perfectionist, I want to kill everything. But also, in groups, the highest HP is used, meaning that someone else could max it out for you in like quad mode, and they would get this as well. So it means your purchase is entirely unnecessary. Like, still doesn't boost the health in, say, Fallen mode, Molten mode, or Hardcore mode. So I don't think it's that useful. I will have to probably say like D. Overheal, like yeah, it boosts it past the max health in, say, Hardcore mode, Fallen mode, or Molten mode. But you either need bandages for this to work, or you need a medic. And let's be real, even though people have said that the medic is a good starting tower, I don't see that many people using the medic. Yeah, this is also a D. Bandages, I think it's better than the other two, but only marginally. This would have to be a C.5. It barely passes and could kind of be useful. However, apart from the early game, the very, very early game, I don't think bandages is all that useful. Meanwhile, for extreme conditioning, right, 0.8% increase every time you upgrade this. At 10, that means that's an 8% decrease of stun and debuff durations by 8%. Okay, that's very cool. At 25, you're looking at a 20% debuff decrease and stun decrease. Now, the longest time that I can think of that an enemy can stun towers for is around 8 seconds. So actually, if you really think about it, a 20% stun decrease at max level, by the way, you're only looking at 1.6 seconds less. However, 1.6 seconds could be quite a lot for some towers. I'm looking at you, Accelerator. So in that regard, yeah, perhaps. However, it's just 20%, and most enemies don't stun for that long of a period. Also, the medic negates this use anyway. But I mean, yeah, sure. In solo mode, can be useful. B. B is, I don't know, B.5. However, beefed up minions, by the way, I think could actually be quite useful. You get a 1.25% increase in health. Now, obviously, this only applies really well to enemies, or sorry, for units that have a high amount of health. We're just going to use the railgun tank as an example, right? So, 1,500 health. It means this gets boosted to 1,600 health, 100 more health for the level that I have it at. And then if you go for the Riot Guard, 2,500 health, and you times that by the current level that I have it as, you get 2,687 health, nearly 200 more health for every unit guard. That's actually quite useful for the Mercenary base. Now, this means at max level, you are getting a 87.5% increase in unit health. And I think for most units, that's actually quite useful. And honestly, I'm thinking this is an S. This is quite good. Even if you rarely use units, this could make the units pretty good. Military base, very good. Mercenary base, extremely good when used with the Riot Guards. And for most other units, it gives them a little bit more resistance. Sentries are pretty useless when it comes to this, but still, yeah, I think this is pretty good. Actually, maybe an A. Maybe not S, A. A's, yeah. Then we go over to Enhanced Optics, and here you get 0.5% for every purchase of the skill of the range. So at 10, you get 5%, at 20, you get 10%. A 10% increase in range is nothing to gawk at. Even a 5% increase is actually quite handy. And for something like the Ranger, right, which has one of the longest ranges in the game, 50. Yes, I am aware the Gatling gun also has a longer range, but we're not going to count that for this purpose. So at max skill level, you get 55, and even at mine, you get 52.5, which I think could cover a slightly bit more, especially in the Ducky Revenge map, the Bathroom Approach. 52.5 range, plus the fact that it can be boosted as well, I think very good. I think this gets an A, or maybe even an S. I think A just purely because range, I prefer damage, but I'm aware there's probably no damage here. Now, Improved Gunpowder on the other hand, Let's think about this. 8% increase in explosion range, 0.8% increase at all times, and what's the level for this? Max level 25, so that's 20%. So the mortar gets an extra 2 range at max level, and even at like low level, 6. And then with the boost I have on its range right now, 8%, getting 0.5 extra range, which for explosion radius is quite good. 0.5 explosion radius, by the way, is genuinely quite a good buff when it comes to tower buffs. So I think this is quite good, and I think most people underrate this. Like, of this entire skill tree, I think this is the one that people probably should be buying the most, and for that reason I think it's an S. Now obviously that means you probably have to use explosive towers, but most people use the mortar, I think, or you should be using the mortar, so I think pretty good. Next, debuff durations applied to enemies are increased by 10%. This is for Fight Dirty, 1% increase, so max level 25% increase, and 10% increase at my level, at the level that everyone should be getting all these skills at, apart from Scholar, and Reinforcements and the end pass here, for more on that later. Now, the longest debuff that I can think of is the Frost Grenade, which freezes enemies for 6 seconds. So, at the current level I have it at, 10%, I'm looking at 0.6. At 25%, I'm looking at 1.5 second increase. I'll be honest, I don't think that's worth it. And this is for an ability that has quite a long debuff effect. If you're looking at something like the Electroshocker, at max level, or like at level 4, let's make it simple, 1 second shock time. Do you know what a 25% increase will do to this? 0.25. Yeah, no, it's C. Yeah, I can't lie. It's not that great, if you really think about it. And talking about not so great precision, I can't lie, 36 enemy shots. Originally, you were looking at 39 enemy shots, each, and then getting a critical hit, which is 0.25 times more damage. 25% increase, which, okay, doesn't seem too bad. Oh, wait, do you know how many enemies you have to do that? 20 enemies. Now, okay, maybe for something like the minigunner, that works out fine. The ranger, on the other hand, 20 shots, that's going to take fucking forever. The best tower I can probably think of this is maybe the turret, which has a low fire rate, but also a high amount of damage. Let's assume 15 shots, and also I just realized it's 25, not 20, okay? Which means that there's a critical hit every 3.2 seconds when it comes to the turret, right? 55 times 1.25. Do you want to know what that is? That is 68.75. Okay, but that's every 3 seconds. And this is the turret we're talking about. This is like a reasonable tower to use it on. This is genuinely useless. You should buy it once, right? Just once. Just like for the extra bonus or whatever. That's it. Never buy. This is like F. Like, yeah, sure, it has more use than the Scholar. And sure, it may have more use. Does it have more use than Fortify and Overheal? I don't think so. F. It's the worst. It's not great. It's not the worst, but it's not great. And then, resourcefulness. We go into the green path now. I don't think this is worth it. Now, come at me. 1.2% more cash when you sell. You currently get, I believe, a third back when you sell a tower. Going up to 25%, if you times that by 1.2, you are looking at 30% more cash back when you sell a tower. So that's nearly another third. So you're getting, what, 60-ish%? Maybe half. I'm going to say, let's say you get half your money back at max level. However, I don't think people realise how little you actually sell towers in Tower Defense Simulator. And also, it's not like you don't get anything back when you sell a tower. You get a third back, and you're only getting another third back when you max this out. Now, generally speaking, this is one of the cheap skills to actually max out, other than like the accelerator. But I think this is slightly overrated. In fact, I think it's overly rated by a lot of people. I think at best this is D. Purely because I'm not really selling towers all that often. Sure, I'm selling towers like towards the end, but at that point I have so much money that selling a tower doesn't really do much. Bigger budget, on the other hand, this is instant S. I can't lie, having an extra 60 health, if you're assuming 600 health, or 600 cash at the start of each game, is actually quite a lot. It means you can actually either place down like another farm, for example, or you can get a better starter tower. 25% more cash at the start of each game. For 600, that means you're getting another 1,500. It was 7,500. 7,500, I meant 750. Which, thinking about it, quite useful. That's an extra upgrade for the tower that you could place down originally. Or nearly being able to get the okay, you can't get the golden crook boss, but you can nearly get it. You're 50 away. I mean, that's probably, you're able to get the crook boss level 1, maybe? I don't know. But I think that's actually quite useful, and I think this is S. Stonks, on the other hand, I'm not sure. I haven't increased by 0.5% each time. At 10, that's 5% increase. 20, that's a 10% increase. I think potentially that could be good. I'm going to say A, but then Scavenger. Every 27 enemy kills, I was it 3 times, so at level 1 it's 29. At 20, that'll be down to every 10 enemy kills. You get 1.5 rewards from enemies. What? An enemy kill. Okay, so early on, you get a boosted cash, but do bear in mind that those enemies will probably give a less amount of cash. Okay, so what about for bosses? They give around, I'm going to assume like every percentage of hit or whatever. They give, no, actually, it won't even work for them because you're not killing them. You're not killing any enemies. Yeah, no, this is useless. F.